Hey YouTube. So our pet ball python is pregnant. We aren't breeders, however we did intend to breed this snake because we're trying to get a morph that we've been wanting. The morph we're trying to get, we'd like actually two morphs. We'd like to get a spider albino, and we would like to get a cinnamon albino. And we bred a female albino to a cinnamon spider het albino, and so we're hoping for that. But this is our first clutch. I've had snakes for about 15 years, and in the past I've bred boas. You know, I've always had boas, but it wasn't until I had children and my children got into ball pythons that we started to collect ball pythons. And so this is going to be my first clutch where I have to deal with eggs, because boas, you know, are live births. So it's going to be, it's new to me, but we've decided not to go with a artificial incubator. We're going to do maternal incubation. So I wanted to make a video of it because when I looked on YouTube, I really didn't see a lot of videos on that topic. So what we're going to do is videotape it along the way, and when I show this video we'll have gone through the process and you'll get to see basically what happens, good or bad. You'll see the eggs all the way up to hatching or not hatching if it turns out, you know, in a way we don't like. So right now we're 3 weeks in, and when I show you the snake, you're going to see her on this type of paper. Normally I use ReptiChip. I love ReptiChip. I'm definitely going back to ReptiChip. I was just trying out the paper just to see if it was better, and in my opinion it's not. The whole reason that I changed from ReptiChip is that when the last time I went to order it, I noticed it went up another, I don't know, $5 or so, and it was starting to get a little pricey, and so I looked at cheaper alternatives. And what this is a roll. It's about a 4-foot long roll of painter's paper that you can buy at Home Depot, and it's too bad this didn't work because it's only like $12, $13 for a big, I mean big thick roll. This roll has, I have 10 tubs here, 10 snakes that I use. Sorry, I have 10 snakes that I use this on, and it would have been great because it's quick to clean. You just pick it up, wipe the tub, put a new sheet down, and you're done. And it's inexpensive, $13, and you get, I mean, yards and yards and yards of this stuff. And this has lasted us almost a year. What I don't like about it is it smells. I mean, it doesn't. There's no odor control. When you know, when the snakes pee and poop, it stinks. And I didn't have that problem with ReptiChip. It was the cocoa bark actually absorbs the odor, so we didn't have that issue. And I also like cocoa bark because you can spot clean, whereas this, if they go on it, you got to change the whole entire thing. So I'm doing away with this and going back to ReptiChip. And when you see the snake, you'll see that she was on that. She happened to be on that. We were trying it out, and then she laid her eggs in the tub while we were doing this test with the substrate, and she would actually crawl underneath of the paper, and she laid her eggs directly on the tub. So what I've been doing is I put in an extra water dish inside her tub to increase the humidity. And one thing about the paper is it did hold the water pretty well. I mean, we saturated it and it held the water, and we created a little tent, like a little dome, underneath the the snake while she was coiled on her eggs, and we would spray that and wet it down so it would be wet underneath her, but it wasn't dripping water on the eggs or anything like that. So what I'm going to do is when I change her over to the cocoa, the cocoa bark, I'm going to keep that some of this paper, and I'm going to keep like a little dome over her, and I'm going to still stay spraying that and doing that because it seems to be working pretty well. The eggs haven't shriveled up. It's keeping the moisture in there, and so we'll keep, we'll continue on in that way, and you'll get to see how it goes. So why don't we take a look at the snake? So this is her tub. The water dish that you're looking at here is just an extra water dish that I added, not for drinking, but just to raise the humidity in the tub, keep it higher for the eggs. I placed her normal water dish underneath the tent so that when she wants a drink, she can drink when she wants to. But when I change over her tub to the ReptiChip, I'm not going to add that container of water because the ReptiChip's going to do a fine enough job by itself holding in humidity. But you can see by looking at the paper and how saturated it is, it did a good job holding in the humidity. The paper that's above her and the eggs is dry though because she's over on the warm side, and so the water evaporates out of the paper. I end up misting that side down twice a day just to keep some moisture over her and the eggs. But I'm going to do away with the paper because, as you can see here, the paper tends to get moldy after a little while. And I've never had a problem with ReptiChip getting moldy, so that's another reason I'm switching back to ReptiChip. She's been a pretty good mom so far. She never strikes at me. She's always, still got an easy temperament. We're not really sure how many eggs she has. I caught her right as she was laying them, and she was coiled around them when she was laying them, and I could count 6, and it still looked like she had one left in her. So I closed the tub and just let her do her thing. And I checked on her later that night, and it looked like she had laid them all, but she coils around so tightly that we're not sure how many there are. We did notice, though, that one egg looks like it's bad or going bad. It's got a brown spot on it. Here, I'll show you what I'm talking about. This is the egg that I'm talking about. There's that spot right there. We can't really tell if it's a brown spot or a clear spot. And then the black spot showed up a week later. We think that might be mold. I'm not sure. But we suspect that this was the first egg that she laid, and maybe it landed, maybe some wet spot came out with her, something wet, and the egg landed on it and is being pressed against the plastic there. But we don't know if it's going to go bad. The rest of the egg looks good, and all the other eggs look good, as you can see here. It's just that one egg. So we'll see. We'll see if it hatches or not. So yeah, I'm taking out the paper, and I'm gonna, go back to ReptiChip. We really like ReptiChip. We've had great luck with it. It holds the humidity well. It doesn't mold, and you can spot clean. It's just really, really good. For those of you that have never used ReptiChip, it's really good stuff. Freedom Breeder also sells the same thing. They call it Cocoa Block. But basically, if you've never bought it, it comes in a big brick, and it's really, really dry. And you just break off bits of the brick and you soak it in water. And soaking it in water, basically it'll absorb the water and it'll break apart. And then you can spread it around in your tub, and it'll hold the water for a good 2 weeks or so. And then you just mist it from time to time. Yeah, but she's been pretty good. Even as a mama, you know, with guarding her eggs, her temperament's still as sweet as ever. Oh, look at that egg. See, I wonder if that's the same egg that has the brown spot on the bottom. If it is, I don't think that's going to be a good egg. But it doesn't seem to be spreading. The brown spot doesn't seem to be spreading, so maybe it'll be good. Who knows? We'll see. I'm so glad to see her drinking, because she's usually underneath the little tent, the paper tent that she's got, and we can't ever tell if she's drinking or not. We're not going to try feeding her though. I'm not sure what we feed live, and I don't want to risk the rat biting an egg and you know, making it leak. And I also don't want to risk her wrapping the rat and crushing one of the eggs. So we're going to wait until she's fully done and the snakes have pipped before we offer food. I want to take a closer look at that spot. I can't really tell if it's clear. I don't know. It looks like a thin part of the egg, like, I don't know. It's hard to tell if it's clear or if it's like a black spot. It looks clear. Hopefully it's a good egg. Hopefully it hatches. Okay, so I'm going to put her back for now. Let her be. Don't want to have her out for too long. I don't want the temperature to drop and fluctuate too much, you know. So we'll keep you posted. Hey, sweetheart. What you doing, girl? So the thermometers I've noticed that I've been using for the last few years, the screen's been fading out, and I got batteries for them, and I changed the batteries, but they only last a month and they start fading out again. So I think I'm going to change the brand. These are the Pet Magazine brand, and they did all right. They lasted a while, but after the original battery ran out, I ordered some, you know, some third-party batteries, and they don't really seem to be working all that well. And after a while, these, I think from the humidity, just go bad. So I ordered a 4-pack of some other brand. So I'm going to try these and see how they do. So these are the new thermometers I got. I'm going to try them out, see how they do. You know, if they do fairly well, I'll put them in the description down below. But I've not used these before. They also do the humidity. So test these out, see how they do. Okay, so when I switched her back over to this cocoa bark, and I changed her out from the paper, I hadn't replaced the hood here, the little tent. And the last time that I checked on her, I noticed that the top egg had started to shrivel a little bit. So I've since then torn off a piece of the paper, made a little tent out of it, and I've been coming here twice a day and spritzing the top of the paper so that she'll have moisture over her and the eggs. I just wanted to check on her today and see if maybe we can see the eggs and see how that top egg is doing. and it looks like maybe it's back to normal. Yep, it's back to normal. Awesome. Yeah, it was starting to shrivel up a little bit. So I think that I'll keep that in practice if we do maternity incubation again, the maternal incubation again. What I'll do is I'll stay with the practice of keeping the paper over the snake and the eggs and keeping that moist, because it seems to keep the humidity at the proper humidity. And this is starting to fade out. I don't know if it's moisture getting in the unit or if it's the batteries. These are fairly new, so I thought I'd give them a try. I still haven't found one that really works well. I know that seems like a lot of water, but it doesn't seep through the paper, so it's not, the water's not getting on the eggs. So at this point, we have exactly 1 month to go till the eggs are expected to be ready. So next month we should see some pipping. So I went to check on the eggs today, and I wanted to look at the one egg that had the brown spot, and well, I'm not too happy with what I'm seeing, because now some other ones are brown, and the one that was brown is even more brown, so it's got me kind of worried. So this is what I'm seeing. That was the egg here that was brown, and you can see the brown spot is bigger, it's darker, and now this one's brown, that one's brown, there's one over here. So I hope they're not rotting. It really sucks. You know, I have noticed though, when I look closely, I do see that, you know, this is the Repti chip all up here, and before there was no Repti chip under here. She coiled around and there was no Repti chip under, but I suspect that she's been leaving her eggs, drinking water, and coming back, because there's Repti chip here and there. And I think I see a little bit of Repti chip there. So the brown may just be tannins from the Repti chip, because when you get Repti chip wet, it does release tannins and it makes the water brown. So I'm hoping that that's tannins from the Repti chip. We're a little over a month in. This weekend will be 5 weeks, so we still have a little over 3 weeks to go. I'll keep checking them. From what I can tell, the top of the eggs are still white, although they do have a slight brownish tinge to it, and that is from the tannins. I do know that. Her body's rubbed off some of the tannins, so that's what I'm kind of hoping that this stuff is on the bottom here. I hope it's not rot. That would really suck. You know, again, this is my first clutch. I've bred boas before, but those are live birth, and you know, this is a whole new beast for me dealing with eggs. So this may just be something that's fine. The eggs are still full. They aren't collapsing. I don't see any dimpling in the eggs, so they do look like they're getting plenty of moisture. I can't tell if this is wetness. I really can't tell. I don't see water here. I've lightened up on the misting. I was misting her twice a day. You know, I was misting the this cover, but I'm going to give it a few days before I mist it again, just in case there's too much humidity in here. I don't know. But she does such a good job of coiling these eggs that you can't really see the eggs. But what I can see still looks pretty good. So I'll just keep my fingers crossed. Hopefully all will be good. We'll see. I'll keep you guys posted. So I went to check on Cece today, and the first thing I noticed was how wide she is. She flattened the lower half of her body, and she looks really, really wide. And you can see her spine going up the back there. So in order to do that, I have to assume that her stomach's pretty empty to make herself that flat. So I'm going to try offering her a small meal and see if she'll accept it. Also, the thermostat that I had, where the screen went kind of blank on it, I thought maybe the humidity was the cause, so I took it out and I left it sitting out, and the thermostat dried out and the screen came back on, so that's all it was. It was just moisture that was making it blank like that. So I'm going to go get a small meal, try to feed Cece, and we'll see what happens. So I tried feeding Cece a small rat. It was a little smaller than a mouse. I wanted to try something small, but she wasn't interested. She kind of went up to it, flicked her tongue at it, and then pulled away and wrapped her eggs tighter, like she was trying to protect them. So I went ahead and took the rat out. But as you can see, the top egg is starting to dimple, and I've read that happens because as it gets closer to hatching time, the eggs, the yolk in the eggs, is being absorbed by the neonates. So the eggs will start to dimple. So I'm not worried about that. But so far, the eggs are still looking good. I'll try feeding her again sometime. I'm just gonna take a quick temp of the eggs. It's a little cool in the house today, and when I open the tub, the temperature thermometer here is reading 83, but as you can see, inside her coil is 88 degrees. So she's definitely keeping her eggs warm and doing her job. She's such a good mom. But I like to check the temperature from time to time because, it does fluctuate. Heat tape's not exact. She looks like she's going to move off her eggs, so we might be able to get a better look at them. As you can see, there are tannins on the eggs. That brown is tannin, so I'm hoping what we saw underneath the eggs, the dark brown, I'm hoping that that's just tannins and not rot. But you can see the top of the eggs look pretty good, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed, hoping for the best. I'd really like to get a cinnamon albino out of this and a spider albino. What we bred her with was a cinnabee het albino. Okay, so last time I tried to feed her, she didn't eat. So I'm going to try again. This time I'm going to try a bigger rat than the last one. These are a little bigger than a mouse. And we'll see if she goes for the bigger one. I breed my own rats, so I have a variation of sizes to try, but we'll see what happens with this one. Okay, Cece, are you gonna eat for us? All right, so we'll put this one in here. We'll see what happens. Like I said, this one's a little bit bigger. She's used to bigger meals, you know, so maybe the other one was too small. She looks interested. I think she might. She's definitely interested. I can't see where the mouse is, or the rat. Where'd you go? Well, no. I guess she's not interested in this one either. Well, maybe she'll get off her eggs. I want to see what they look like. See how they're doing. Oh, maybe she is interested. Maybe she will eat them. Oh, look at that. That one's got a big dimple in it. So before, it looked like there were about 8 eggs in there. I can only see about 6 right now. But I counted 8 before. So hopefully we'll have 8 healthy babies. Yeah, I don't think she's going to eat. She doesn't look interested. We tried. So today is day 54. And pipping has started. Looks like half of them, 4 out of the 8, have pipped. And we got an albino. So this was cool because one thing I was trying to confirm was that our het albino was indeed a het albino. Whenever you buy from a breeder that you don't know, you're basically taking their word for it, and until you prove it out, you don't really know. So this was good for us because seeing an albino here, although it's not a cinnamon albino or a spider albino like I wanted, it does give us confirmation that the father is indeed het albino. So that's pretty cool. We're psyched about that. But yeah, half have pipped. So I'll give it another day before I do any cutting, if I do any cutting. As you can see here, Mama's pretty emaciated. She's lost a lot of weight. You can see her spine. And I've tried feeding her. I tried a couple times throughout her pregnancy. I tried various sizes of rats, and she didn't show any interest. So I will try to feed her and see if she'll eat now that the eggs are starting to pip. And maybe she doesn't feel like she has to sit on the eggs now. So I'll give that a shot and see how it goes. This little guy is such a cutie. There's one back there. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little mouth poking out of that egg. But this guy's a cutie. Look at him. So here we have another one that decided to poke its head out, and it looks like another albino, so that's pretty cool. I really want to get a cinnamon albino and a spider albino out of this clutch. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. So far, half the eggs have hatched and half are albino and half look either normal or cinnamon. So here it is the next day, day 55, and no more babies have pipped. So we're still at 4 that pipped and 4 that didn't. But I want to show again how skinny the mother is, and I want to just say how important it is to really have your mothers at weight, at a proper weight for when you're going to breed them, because it does take a lot out of them. And she's very skinny, and she's doing well. She's alert, and she seems, energetic as far as a ball python is concerned. But it's really, really important to have your snakes up to weight. So please don't rush your mothers. I know it's exciting to breed snakes, and this was an exciting experience for us. But seeing her this way, it just really just lets us know how important it is to keep that weight up. So here's the baby albino that was crawling around. It's very, very pink, but you can see a faint pattern on it, some faint yellow, and that yellow will come through and show more as it gets older and turns more white. But it looks like to be a regular albino. This one's disposition seems very sweet, just like her mom, or his mom. We don't know yet. I haven't probed them. So I'm going to go ahead and set this one down. I just wanted to check out the pattern a little more closely. I did decide to go ahead and cut 2 of the eggs, and it looks like we have one more, either normal or cinnamon. I can't really tell, and I don't want to poke around too much. And then we discovered we have another albino. So again, we're at half and half. 3 albinos, 3 normal or cinnamons. And the other 2 eggs I didn't want to mess with because they're actually still pretty full. There's no deflation in them, so I can't even really pinch the skin. And I know I've seen some breeders, when they have full eggs like this, kind of jab them with sharp scissors to poke a hole in them and then cut. I don't want to do that because I don't want to risk poking a snake, and it's really not that important. I'll just let them come out on their own. So this cinnamon het albino just crawled out of its egg, and in the process it stimulated this snake to crawl out of its egg. And this one is a albino cinnabee. So it's an albino cinnamon spider. It's really, really pretty. I really like the pattern on this one. I was hoping that this one crawling out would stimulate this little guy over here to come out of his egg, or her egg, I don't know. But no such luck. This one's going to hang out a little longer. We think this one is a high contrast albino because its yellow is a little more deep than the others that have come out. So this one was the last one to come out. She stayed in her egg for an extra 4 days after the first one had pipped. So the first one that we saw that had pipped was Friday night. This one didn't come out until Tuesday evening. And I think that's partially because we kept snipping her egg a little bit away, as the yolk would go down and she'd absorb the yolk. We would just snip away her egg until she was basically in a half shell and had no choice. But she's coming out now. This isn't the day she came out. This is the day before, so she still has most of her egg there. But she was curious, and she kept poking out her head. And the funny thing is she would come out whenever my wife would talk to her. People say snakes can't hear, but I beg to differ because my wife would sit there and go, come on out. And the snake would start moving its head out and start crawling out. And then when my wife would stop speaking, she'd withdraw and pull her head back in. And then my wife would come back and say, come on out, it's time for you to come out. She'd start coming out again and crawling out. And then when my wife would stop speaking, she'd go back in again. So it's pretty funny. I've never seen anything like that. But this one turned out to be female, and it was our third albino cinnabee. Okay, so let's take a look at the snakes that we got in the clutch. This one here is an albino cinnabee, and I absolutely love the orange that are in these snakes. You know, it's pretty neat because, you know, the mom is an albino, so she's yellow and white, but these came out orange and white, and this one here is just absolutely gorgeous. This one's a male. We ended up having two males, one female. The sire to the clutch was a cinnabee het albino, so this is a homozygous form of that, and we're going to hold this one back. I love the dorsal pattern on these and the different shades of orange. It's just a beautiful snake. Absolutely gorgeous. And those eyes look like butterscotch candies. Yeah, so this one we'll keep back, use it for future projects. This one here is a normal 100% het albino. And I tell you what, the normals, they still look so nice to me. They're so pretty. With all the morphs that are out there, I still really come back and you have to admire the normals. They're still really pretty snakes. Look at that belly. Gorgeous belly. They really are beautiful animals. Every one of the snakes, we had 8 total, every single one of them has been puppy dog tamed right out of the egg. We've had them for a month now, and not one of them has taken a strike at me. They've all been so sweet. So this here is a spider, and this is also going to be a holdback. I love that head. Look at that. I love the head pattern on this. So my daughter claimed this one. She loves my bumblebee, and she's been wanting a spider of her own, so she chose this one. It's a cute spider. It's actually one of the best I've ever seen. And what's really cool about this spider is it looks like it has a web on its jaw, its lower jaw. Look at that. It looks like a spider's web. So that's really cool. So spider's very befitting to this snake. So she's keeping this. She's naming this one Spartan. And this is a female. And the lips are black on this one. It's really cool. When she was eating a meal and her mouth was open, part of her mouth is also black. It looks really cool. She's a really neat looking spider. And spider's one of my favorite genes. I just absolutely love the effect that spider has on the dorsal part of the snake. It's just beautiful. Those black marks on it, they're just beautiful. It looks like ink spilled on the back of a snake and it's just dripping down. But this one is a good eater, and half of the snakes have eaten, half of them have not. So I'm going to try some assist feeding today with the ones that haven't, but this one here has been a pretty good eater. So cute. They're so cute. And this is why they call them ball pythons right here. So this one here is an albino form of the spider. It's an albino spider, and this one had a little bit of paradoxing, real slight paradoxing. Right there's a mark. There's another faint one right there, and another dark spot that this one's got on actually him. This is a male on his back. Right there, there's a little bit of paradoxing. The albino spiders are pretty cool because they're almost solid yellow, and I love yellow in a snake. It's one of my favorite colors to see in a snake. But I like spider albinos because it's a solid yellow snake with these white scratches on the dorsal. It's pretty cool. Then again, you got those butterscotch eyes. Beautiful eyes. And this one here is my absolute favorite from the clutch. I don't know what it is about cinnamons. I just absolutely love cinnamons. They are so cute. And this one here is pretty neat. If you look, you'll see the words "ma" on the back by the tail. But I think cinnamons have some of the cutest faces, and I love the brown color in them. And there's that ma pattern again, M-A. This one is our best eater. It's eaten 4 times since it hatched, and she's gonna. I'm holding her back. This one's gonna be mine. I think cinnamon's such an underrated gene. But yeah, she's a cutie. So she'll be staying here with us. I love it when they periscope like that. It's so cute. Okay, so what did I learn that I can pass on to you guys as advice for when you go to do your first maternal incubation? Alright, so one thing that I learned from this experience was that the black spots that I was seeing on the eggs, they're called windows. And from what I learned, it's a lack of calcium in the egg, in the shell of the egg, in that one spot. And it's not a black spot, it's an actual clear spot. So there's a lack of calcium there, and it creates a window, and you can actually see inside there. If you hold the flashlight up there, you can actually see inside the egg. And it's not a bad thing. It doesn't mean the egg's going to go bad. So I was worried for nothing. And that's one thing I've learned, is that we tend to worry and get a little paranoid when we're breeding these python eggs. A lot of breeders are breeding these, and they have thousands of dollars invested, and so they are wanting for the eggs to hatch, and any little thing that looks like it is going wrong causes paranoia. But from what I've learned from this experience is the eggs are pretty resilient, and there's no need for all that worry. And this is another reason why I wanted to kind of do this experiment and go with maternal incubation versus artificial incubation, is that we do as humans tend to we tend to try to control things a little bit too much, and you have to have the temperature set at this, and you can't allow the temperatures to fluctuate, and humidity this, and I mean, I understand that there are guidelines to follow with these reptiles, but I think because of the morphs they're putting out and the thousands of dollars that they're worth, I think breeders are just getting a little bit paranoid with the breeding and putting stipulations and rules where they really don't need to be. So for instance, I keep my tubs around, I keep the hot spot at 90, and it fluctuates, it fluctuates between 89 and 93, I would say, the temperatures. It's heat tape, and the heat tape fluctuates from time to time, but I try to keep the hot spot around 90. And when you're doing the maternal incubation, the mom is going to pick the spot in the tub where she feels is the best spot to lay her eggs. And where she chose to lay her eggs was around 85, 86 degrees. There's about a 10-degree variance in my tubs. They're about 33 and a half inches long, and in that span you get about a 90-degree on the hot end, and then you get about an 80-degree on the cool end. And where she laid them was a little past the middle there, and as you can see, when I did the temperature gun the day that the temperature was 83 degrees, inside her coil it was 88 degrees. So she's creating the warmth that she needs to, and she's picking the spot that she needs to. So they've been doing this for years, before humans intervened, so they know what they're doing. And so that one thing I learned is when I watch other videos, they say they have to be set at 88 degrees, and you can't have temperature fluctuations. There were temperature fluctuations. I mean, we were checking on her daily, and every time we open a tub, it's like when you're cooking something, you're baking something in the oven. Whenever you open a door, the temperature drops. Well, the same thing happens with her tub. When you pull out the tub, the temperature drops. So there were times where we had it open for, I don't know, 5 minutes. So the temperature dropped pretty well. And the eggs still hatched, and they all hatched fine. So they're resilient. They're a little more resilient than we're giving them credit for. And I don't think there was such a cause for paranoia. What I thought might be rot was not rot. It did turn out to be the tannin from the cocoa bark. So I was hoping that's what it was. There was actually no rot at all on the eggs, so that was great. They did pip at 54 days, so I really thought it would go longer, because we were at a cooler temperature than most breeders do when they do the artificial incubation. They usually set it at about 88 degrees. Our tubs were about 85, 86 where her eggs were at, so I did think we'd go past the 57-day mark, but they actually pipped on day 54. Another thing I learned is that when the babies are crawling out the eggs, it may take several days for them to all crawl out. As you saw in the video, the first one crawled out on a Friday, and then the last one crawled out on a Tuesday. And actually, I think the one that crawled out on Tuesday would have actually went a little longer. The reason it didn't is because as the yolk is getting absorbed, the level of liquid is going down, and as the level of liquid would go down in the egg, I'd get out scissors and I would snip the egg, and then the next day it would go down a little further. I'd snip a little more, and I did that until eventually there was hardly any egg left for her to be in. So she finally crawled out, and that was 4 days later after the first one crawled out. So give it a little time. If you're doing this and you see that one or two snakes are not wanting to crawl out of their egg immediately, just be patient, and they eventually will. let's see, I wrote a list of stuff here because I don't want to leave anything out. One thing that I didn't mention in the video that I do want to mention here is she wouldn't eat for a while, even after she laid her eggs. Once she laid her eggs, she crawled off the eggs, and she didn't get back on them. So we decided to pull her from the tub because we found that the ones that did pip, as the mother would crawl over the eggs, she would push some of the yolk out. So we took her out of the cage, and we tried feeding her, and she wouldn't show any interest in the rats at all. So one thing I found was I decided to give her a bath, and I took some mild dish soap and washed her and cleaned her and put her in a new cage. And then when I offered food, within 2 seconds she tagged the rat and was eating again. So it took washing the scent of the babies and the eggs off of her before she would actually eat again. Another thing I wanted to mention was at the beginning of the incubation, we had placed an extra water dish in the cage to add extra humidity. We found that's not necessary, so the next time I do maternal incubation, I won't be adding that extra water dish. It just wasn't necessary. I did like the idea of when I would put a sheet of paper over her when she was coiled around the eggs. I'd had that painter's paper over her, and I would saturate that. I will do that the next time. I think that works very well, and it holds the water, and I think it provided the perfect amount of moisture for her without the need of adding the extra water dish. So the next time I do this, I will not be doing the extra water dish, but I will be creating a dome. I'll tear off a sheet of paper, I'll put it over her, and I will saturate that twice a day. I do it once in the morning before work, and once at night before I go to bed, and that seemed to work perfectly. And I did find that if you find your eggs are dimpling, because I did a little test, and where I went down to once every other day, I would spray the water on top of the cover, and I did find that the top egg started to dimple a little bit, and so that's a sign that it's not getting enough hydration. So then I started going back to the twice a day, and immediately the dimpling went back to a full egg. So as far as moisture control, that's pretty simple to keep an eye on. It's pretty simple to regulate. And again, as far as temperatures are concerned, Mama is going to choose the best spot in the tub to lay her eggs. So just let her do what she's going to do. And this one happened to lay right on top of the plastic, so there was no substrate in between the egg and the plastic to take away any degrees. Because one thing I found is with the cocoa bark, I set my tubs to 94 in order to get a 90-degree temp in the tub, because I've got about, I would say it's about 3/4 of an inch of substrate there, and that heat has to go through it. So by the time it reaches the top of the substrate, it's the 90 degrees that I want. So anyway, this was a cool experiment. I definitely will do maternal incubation again. You know, we have a small house, and we're not breeders per se. We have some pet snakes that we do breed, and we're breeding for certain morphs that that are to us, they're a little pricey to go buy flat out. So we buy the hets, and we're producing the visuals of what we want, and so we keep what we're looking for, and then we sell the rest. And so I don't want to go out and spend a ton of money on an incubator, and I really don't want to go through the trouble of building an incubator, because it's just another thing to take up more room in your house. So as my snake collection grows, I want to have that room for racks and not an incubator. So if maternal incubation goes well again next year, it's just something I'm going to do, and I'm not even going to dabble with the artificial incubation, because I don't see the point. To me, if maternal incubation works well, then why even spend the money on an incubator? Now for the bigger breeders, I do understand they want to get their mamas back on food as soon as possible. And when you do maternal incubation, you're going to have an extra 2 months where that mama's not eating. So I do get their point, because they want to get their mama back into circulation as soon as possible. However, we're not doing that with our snakes. I mean, I'm not going to sit there and breed her every year and wear her out like that. These are our pets. So, you know, I think maternal incubation, you know, every 2 to 3 years, you know, with the mamas is, you know, well enough for us. So I hope this video helped you guys. It certainly was fun, exciting, and it was a great learning point for us. And like I said in the beginning of the video, when we were getting ready to do this, I tried searching the internet, I tried searching YouTube for some good videos, some good content to kind of help me out and guide me. And there wasn't much. There was a little bit, but there wasn't much. So I figured I'm going to make a video on this, so from, you know, beginning to end, so that other people can see what we went through, and you know, kind of take it for what it's worth. So thank you for watching. If you like this video, click subscribe, and thanks again.